What's good, you punk bitches?
I'm no punk bitch.
I ain't no punk bitch neither.
I'm no
I
punk
come back there and knock
bitch.
that.
Welcome to the movie Mecca. I am the Bishop of Bull Moose, coming to you from the Kino Lorber Presents Team Almy Studios, because they sent me a whole bunch of movies for free. See the stack right there? I'm here to deliver to you my review of the 2024 film released by Vinegar Syndrome Productions entitled Street Trash. I'm going to give this one 2 big blue Muppet dicks up. And if you've seen the film, you know what I mean. And if you haven't, there's big blue Muppet dicks in the movie. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that one. This is a recent release from Vinegar Syndrome. This one just came out January, I believe. This was one of their January releases. Relatively recent film from 2024. It is a pseudo sequel that pays homage to the original 1987 version of Street Trash. And this is a nice presentation. There's like a Blu-ray case inside, a slipcover inside a side-loading rigid box. So it feels like a lot to get into. It's like getting into your girlfriend's panties in high school, right? You just got to go through a lot more shit than you really should. But Blu-ray case inside of a slipcover inside of a rigid hard box. So it feels really unnecessary, but also kind of nice. It feels a little, it's a little heftier, a little more girthy in your hands. And so, it's not unenjoyable to have to unwrap this thing. And it's similar to what VSP has done with their other releases in the past. If you own any of their other releases, really, except I think New York Ninja is the only one that does not come with this kind of like 3-piece suit right here. They all come with the slipcase and the rigid box. And I would say the artwork is very striking. I like the artwork of this case quite a bit. A lot of neon. This riot cop is like melting in grisly fashion. It's all very like evocative of what you're going to get out of the movie. And it's a very strong graphic design. I like the color. I like the composition of the case and the slipcover that you can see here. A lot of neon. I really dig it. Very, very striking, very bold and saturated colors. The reversible cover artwork allows for some variety as well, which is nice. I don't like it when the cover, this guy right here on the Blu-ray case, I don't like it when the Blu-ray case, the artwork on the little piece of paper there, I don't like it when it matches this. I don't want them to be the same. But sometimes they do that, unfortunately. Here, you've got a reversible slipcover art, so you can rectify that. The carpet doesn't have to match the drapes, is what I'm saying. You can change the color of the carpet. I'm more of a hardwood floor guy myself. What can I tell you? The only thing that I really didn't get about the presentation here for the 2024 Street Trash is why they didn't go with 4K. It was shot on 35 millimeter. This is a 4K transfer, and yet the release is Blu-ray only format. So they could have done it, but it looks fine. Like it does look maybe even good, but I feel like the 4K should have been made available. I can only assume that it has something to do with the VSP line. These are all newer films. They're produced at least in some part by Vinegar Syndrome, and all of the limited edition print runs are relatively low, like 3,000 unit limited edition print runs, and only a few of them have sold out. So this whole line, the VSP line, really doesn't strike me as the strongest sellers. It doesn't sell like the main line does when they release something big like The Keep or even Looking for Mr. Goodbar. So I presume it's just like it made more fiscal sense economically for Vinegar Syndrome to stick with Blu-ray on the VSPs instead of going 4K, even though this could have been a no-brainer 4K release for that line. I guess we're just sticking with Blu-ray for now. Looked fine. No real issues there. Not a beautiful film anyway. It's just a bunch of people melting. As far as the film itself, it actually wound up being a lot funnier than I expected it to be. I should have known looking at the artwork that it was going to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit silly, because look at that. I mean, it's not. Again, it wound up actually being quite a bit funnier than I thought it would be. The story follows a small group of hobos. These are the street trash of the title. And it's nice that none of these actors are especially beautiful. That sounds like an insult, but like None of them are really like incredible looking specimen. They're all kind of normal looking human beings. They don't have this like Hollywood A-lister, like perfection of the jawline and cheekbones and shit like that. So it makes them work better. They're more believable as homeless characters, in my opinion. And they're none of them are recognizable to me. I mean, they might have been in other stuff. You might recognize them. I don't know, but they weren't recognizable to me. So that worked well. I wasn't taken out of the narrative because it's like, oh yeah, it's Brad Pitt playing a homeless guy. Yeah, I bet. It's a fucking guy. Unlike the original Street Trash from 1987, Street Trash 24 is set 25 years into the future from today. So it's the year 2050, and it sort of features this dystopian social structure. That's sort of the impetus, the narrative impetus for the film. Fascistic, dictatorial leaders of the local government, they need to maintain order and continue to oppress the people with an iron fist, and so they develop this terrible aerosolized drug that basically turns human beings into puddles of goop. And because the film is set so well into our future, it really can't make any direct, explicit reference to the politics or like sociology of 2025. The class conflict seems a little bit more timeless. It's upper class, lower class. It's sort of government versus the people. It seems natural in a dystopia. And I consider it a welcome relief that this film doesn't harp on about the hot topic social politics of the current year. I think the film will wind up aging well because they're dealing with a more universal conflict. It's not tied so much to the year 2024 and whatever was going on politically in 24. I don't know. I drink a lot of this. And there's also a lot more dick in this movie than I expected as well. There's a touch of smelly hobo sex at one point, but even that is played for a laugh. That's meant to be humorous. Whereas sexual contact between characters in a typical horror film is usually a little titillating, right? It's maybe even a little exploitive in the right type of movie where you get to see this young girl's breasts and stuff like that. This is You don't get to see anything like hot or attractive. It's ugly hobo sex in a car, and you don't really get to see everything. It's just kind of parts mashed together. They're not setting you up for a kill. It's for humor. And as funny as the film is, much of the time, it makes good on its promise of some really like gnarly gore. A lot of the goop that comes out of the victims in this movie is really like bright, saturated colors, purple and green mostly, which helps it feel not quite so anatomical. It's not like they're making ground beef in a butcher shop. It helps you disconnect a little bit. It makes it a little less gross, but there's a good bit of conventional dark red blood as well. So it's still pretty nasty. The peeling off of the skin is where things got real uncomfortable for me. It's like the connective tissue just started falling apart in these people, and just like shit would just peel off of them in large chunks. Like the skin would fall off, and some of these people, like the skin of a boiled tomato, just like falling right off, just sloughing off at some points. And I'm not ashamed to say I looked away a few times. There's also some fun drug use in this one, with a specific drug being used in a similar way to the medicine from Big Trouble in Little China, where it has a performance enhancing effect along with making the characters impaired. And the use of that drug helps with the payoff of a long running gag in the film that I won't spoil for you, but they do kind of close the loop on a long running gag pretty well with the use of this inventive drug. And much of the effects in this film are practical. So a good amount of puppetry for one particular character is practical, honestly looks fake as fuck as a result, which does kind of pull you out a little bit. I mean, it honestly looks like one of the puppets my daughters would play with. It looks fake as fuck. But I also appreciated the relative lack of CGI. There is a little bit of computer animation, of course, especially with like they have these holographic 3D bulletins, sort of like public service announcements. It's set in the year 2050, so they have to have a little bit of future tech, and they achieved that with some computer animation. But the like actual like people melting slash exploding is all done very practically. There's a lot of like real paint and makeup and actual like fake chunks of people. So that's all very nice. Whereas you get the sense that a person falling apart, a face melting as it does at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark in 2024, 2025, that would have been done via computer animation. They would have just animated that whole face melting off, and something that makes Raiders of the Lost Ark so excellent is that they actually somehow had to film this human being melting. And I don't know, there's you have to appreciate the effort and the work that it goes in, the inventiveness and ingenuity that goes into making something actually melt in front of your eyes and make it look believable. Here, the melting is a little bit different than the way it looks in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but still done practically, and it does have that sort of weight. I mean, it feels real. There's some mass there to like the goop and the chunks and the stuff like exploding and popping off of people. Very much the way a live action Fist of the North Star really should have looked. If you guys are familiar with Fist of the North Star, and if you're as familiar with Fist of the North Star as me, because you liked that shit when you were a teenager, then you're also familiar with the abysmal live action film that was produced in the mid 90s that just they didn't have the budget to really make the heads explode in a real Fist of the North Star movie. You want to see like parts of people blowing out before their entire head explodes and brains and eyeballs fly out. And that's what you get from this movie. It's definitely not comparable to Fist of the North Star in any other way. So I don't want to draw that analogy there. But this film, Street Trash, does feel again a little bit more timeless in the sense that it feels like it could have been made 20 or even 30 years ago because it does not overly rely on computer animation, in my opinion. So, all things considered, Street Trash 2024 is to body horror as Shaun of the Dead is to zombie movies, but it's actually a pretty fun movie, and it's got plenty of like yuckiness to it. So, let's put it this way: if you enjoyed the gremlin exploding in the microwave, then you'll like Street Trash because it's basically 90 minutes of that kind of thing. If the gremlin exploding in the microwave made you giggle as an 8-year-old like it did for me, you would like Street Trash about as much as I did. It's a great throwback type of film. It's got a good stylish design, very colorful, the neon, and it almost feels like the type of film that you would discover by accident because you're watching HBO or Showtime late on a Friday night and everyone's gone to sleep, and you just stumble upon this thing that you never saw in the theaters, you never even really heard of it, and here it is. That's what Street Trash kind of felt like. Also, don't watch it sober. What are you, a fucking nerd? If that sounds good to you, there's only about 220 copies of the limited edition left as I record this. That's about 93% sold the fuck out. So they got 7% of that inventory left. You know what that means. Get the fuck on it. I'm going to buy them all and scalp the fuck out of them if I catch you sleeping. So I'm going to go buy the rest of them, scalp them on eBay. $200 a piece right next to hundreds of beavers, motherfucker.